Most people are not destroyed by life itself. They are destroyed by their reactions to it. One rejection stays in the mind for years. One betrayal changes the heart. One cruel sentence continues echoing long after it was spoken. And slowly, people begin living emotionally controlled by the world around them. But according to Carl Jung, much of human suffering comes from something deeper, an inner world that has never been understood. Because what hurts you repeatedly is often connected to something unresolved within you. And until that inner world is faced honestly, people remain emotionally vulnerable to almost everything. This is why some people are disturbed by every opinion, every criticism, every disagreement. Their peace depends entirely on external approval. But mature people eventually realize something important. A person who cannot control their inner world will always be controlled by the outer one. And perhaps this is where real freedom begins. Not when life becomes easier, but when your mind stops collapsing under every difficult moment. Jung believed that human beings spend much of their lives avoiding themselves, avoiding uncomfortable truths, avoiding buried emotions, avoiding the parts of their personality they do not wish to confront. He called this the shadow, the hidden part of the self people try to ignore, but ignored emotions do not disappear. They quietly shape reactions. This is why some people become deeply angry over small situations, why certain words wound them excessively, why rejection feels unbearable. Often, the pain is older than the moment itself, and until a person understands this, they continue blaming the world for wounds they have never truly healed internally. This does not mean other people cannot hurt you. They can. But not every wound deserves permanent authority over your peace. Emotionally strong people understand this differently. They stop depending on constant validation. They stop building their identity around the opinions of others. Because eventually they realize, if your self-worth depends entirely on other people, your peace will always remain fragile. Jung believed that self-awareness changes everything. Because when you understand yourself deeply, people lose some of their power to disturb you. Criticism affects you differently. Rejection affects you differently. Even loneliness affects you differently. Not because you become cold or emotionless, but because your identity becomes less dependent on external approval. And perhaps one of the greatest forms of maturity is learning not to take everything personally. Not every insult deserves emotional suffering. Sometimes people speak from their own bitterness, their own insecurity, their own unresolved pain. And emotionally wise people learn not to carry every projection placed upon them. This does not happen overnight. Inner stability is built slowly, through reflection, through honesty, through learning when silence is wiser than reaction. And perhaps this is why calm people often appear powerful, because calmness usually comes from experience, from pain survived, from emotions understood, from battles within themselves that other people never see. The truth is, nobody reaches peace accidentally. It is developed. And one of the most dangerous habits a person can have is allowing every external event to control their inner state. One bad conversation ruins the day. One criticism destroys confidence. One difficult moment steals all peace. But Jung believed healing begins when a person stops running from themselves, when they become honest about their fears, their anger, their insecurities, their wounds. Because what remains unconscious continues controlling behavior quietly. And maybe this is the real meaning behind emotional freedom, not that nothing painful ever happens again, but that your peace no longer disappears every time it does. If this message spoke to you, comment below. Peace begins within. And tell me, which part of this message stayed with you the most? Subscribe for more deep psychological wisdom and timeless reflections inspired by Carl Jung.